know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob.
Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Daniela Walls, National Chair of the Tax Wall Street Party. We are recording this program on the afternoon of the 17th of April, 2015. Webster Tarpley is traveling this week, so I am honored to help him host. The presidential field is taking shape. The Coke plantation is filling up with a never-before-seen breed of killer austerity goals. This is no longer the world of moderate conservatives. This is a different world. I'm also sure that many of you are immediately curious about what happened on Tuesday, April 14th, at the final trial of Reverend Edward Pinkney. This was an evidentiary trial. This was the trial to hear the evidence that Gail Freeling, the lying racist juror, was connected to the prosecution. We will be talking to the Reverend later in the show, and if he's unable to connect, we will be talking to his spokesperson, Larry Pinkney. I've heard some rumors at the prison that it might be difficult for him to connect today, and that he also might have a visitor at that time, so we are going to try our best. We will also have at the end of the show legal consultant to the Tax Wall Street Party, Jeffrey Jackson, who's been doing yeoman service from the beginning, keeping the Reverend's original legal team on track. Jeffrey will give us a legal rundown of exactly where we are up until this point. As far as I know, on Tuesday at that final evidentiary hearing, they dismissed the evidence again, and not only was the Reverend immediately shipped back to prison, he was also fined $1,800 restitution for neck pain he gave to the mayor who was making the recall effort. The mayor is a public figure, and something like a recall is part of his job, and public figures are subjected to political recalls. This mayor submitted his prescription for Vicodin as evidence that we gave him neck pain. This sentencing is unprecedented across the board. This should be a misdemeanor. The Michigan State Court of Appeals determined it can only be tried as a misdemeanor. So we'll go more into this at the end of the show and either have Larry or Reverend Edward Pinkney, and then followed by attorney Jeffrey Jackson, who will talk to us about the details later in the show. So back to the 2016 presidential chessboard. So far, we have Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio. Scott Walker hasn't announced yet, but he's waiting in the wings. On the left, we have Hillary. So never before has there been the need for an authentic New Deal Democrat to enter the race. 2016 is starting to look like a foregone conclusion, meaning Hillary versus Jeb. There is no serious second place yet on the other side. The Koch brothers seem to be sending out their wolf pack to flank for Bush. We'll soon have Walker, like I said, who is Jeb's cousin. Walker will flank for Jeb to the right. Rubio, who is Jeb's protege, is flanking to the left, you could say. And Rand might not be flanking for Jeb, and he just may be running out of vanity, which is my instinct, but he's also a Koch-funded sellout. So this is how the Rubio-Walker-Cruz flanking operation works. Like Webster said in other episodes, they're there to put the votes in a deep freeze. They are each going to go and fight for a certain part of the vote. This way, somebody like, God forbid, McCain can't come in and have a strategy to beat Bush based on taking low-hanging fruit that Jeb would otherwise have a hard time getting at. These Koch minions come in and capitalize on the low-hanging fruit, you see, and, or better, Jeb's weak points. For example, Rubio will tie up the Latino vote for Jeb in the Southeast. Walker can tie up the upper Midwest. The goal is to clear the board and take away votes from a stronger opponent coming in, like I said, McCain. So there's not somebody in question yet that could beat Jeb, but this is the Koch strategy to prepare in case that does happen. This way, no opponent will see an opportunity to get into the race. The Koch brothers want their Republican in the White House in 2016 come hell or high water. What do we want? Obviously, we want an economic populist, New Deal Democrat, and not one like Warren necessarily just paying lip service, but a strong candidate. What we really want is a strong candidate in service to an economic program, somebody like an Alexis Tsipras in Greece. But short of this, very, very short of this, we want divided government. Both the Democrats and Republicans are killers. They're pro-austerity, pro-Wall Street, pro-war. But if they're divided, it slows down the process of either of them implementing what they want. We don't want to say that there is no least worst, I would say, because yes, the worst is Jeb Bush. No matter what happens here, we have to vote for divided government. I'm not sure it's going to be optimal, and it's usually not optimal. So in the case that it's not optimal, think divided government and never stop thinking divided government. Former Governor Martin O'Malley, I was reading this morning, of Maryland, on the left, has expressed interest. He's formed his PAC. He's out of the exploratory phase, formed a PAC, and we've also heard that Jill Stein of the Green Party, but to that, and the Greens' austerity, energy austerity. At least O'Malley, I would say, could play the role John Edwards did in 2008 and keep Hillary's feet to the fire. When Edwards ran against Hillary and Obama, he was the one that talked about poverty and Wall Street and the need to re-regulate. Edwards helped push that race, even if just a little to the left, and hopefully O'Malley could do the same. O'Malley has some capacity to be independent, but I can bet you he's not going to come out and blow anybody's minds. So let's get to these other creeps. We've got Ted Cruz. So first coming out of the gate was Ted Cruz, who is a candidate that can only be described as a cruel joke perpetuated on the American people by the Koch brothers. He promises to abolish Obamacare, while his wife has that gold-plated Cadillac health plan from her job at Goldman Sachs. In 2006, the biggest issue is Obamacare and immigration reform, and the biggest issue is not Wall Street regulation. As a political professional, I look at statistics of what the biggest issues, and I'm just in utter shock that people are getting out of bed that the biggest issue is Obamacare and immigration. It's like, come on, people. Like, there's something wrong with American priorities that anti-Obamacare is going to get you out of bed to vote and not Wall Street regulation. So it's time to get serious. You are all revolutionaries now. That's what these times call for. You are all revolutionaries now. And what does a revolutionary mean? Fighting bankers. From the time of Jesus up until now, fighting bankers. If you are not fighting bankers, you are spinning your wheels. If the number 1 and 2 issue are Obamacare and immigration, then it's just strange to me. So let's get our priorities screwed on straight and move forward as a pack of revolutionaries. We'll be back in a second. World's presidency.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right. General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100 foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
Did you know that drinking pure, high-alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at GoBerkey.com. That's GoBerkey.com today.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are G.
Price Ratio. As we continue down the list of freakish presidential 2016 hopefuls, let's explore why Little Rand must never get close to the presidency, an austerity ghoul who claims that the GOP's 2016 budget is not genocidal enough. Paul voted against the 2016 GOP budget because it was not genocidal enough. This budget was unprecedented in its killer cuts, even for Republicans. there has not been much media coverage of this budget submission because even the media, I think, is embarrassed and confused on how to report on something so genocidal. Rand Paul, we know, wants to stop all foreign aid, including 60% of world food aid, meaning millions of deaths. This guy is like a modern walking black plague. Paul always goes on about supporting the Constitution, but he supports free trade. He does not support the Constitution, but the Confederate Constitution. I wish these guys on the right would stop coming on and saying, we support the Constitution, we support the Constitution. They support the Confederate Constitution. So start saying, we support the Confederate Constitution. That's if you want to be honest. Rand Paul hates the U.S. Constitution. He hates the General Welfare Clause, which appears twice. He hates the 14th and 15th Amendments the Union Army fought and died for all the way up to Appomattox. He's a typical Freemason who hates the 14th Amendment made possible by Lincoln's victory and wants to roll back Appomattox. The Constitution's 14th Amendment clearly states that those born on American soil are considered American citizens. However, Paul, in his effort to appear tough on illegal immigration, believes that this should not be the case. His hypocrisy is overwhelming. Paul endlessly cites the Constitution as the ultimate authority when he attempts to justify his opposition to the Americans with Disability Act or the Voting Rights Act. Yet when the Constitution stands in opposition to the rabid prejudices of its voting base, suddenly the founding document is no longer the arbiter of the U.S. legal system. What else do we have with Rand Paul? Rand Paul opposes the minimum wage and other basic common sense labor protections. He's a union buster reminiscent of European fascist movements of the 1930s. And let's not forget his secret society connections where he kidnapped that woman, forcing her to kneel to Aqua Buddha and take long bong hits. He's also recently one of the 47 traitors, where he signed Tom Cotton's letter rejecting any nuclear deal with Iran. On and on and on. We've done a lot of work on Rand Paul. Then we have Marco Rubio, who just came out a few days ago and announced his run for president. Adding one more wingnut to this growing GOP roster, Rubio threw down the gauntlet of the 40-year austerity dictatorship that we've talked about so often in this show when he said, quote, yesterday is over and we're never going back, and campaigning for a, quote, new American century. Rubio's new American century, from what I can gather, means deregulation, more austerity, more endless war. Remember, Rubio was the one who said, quote, this was his big quote, it was very famous, George W. Bush, in my opinion, did a fantastic job as president. So this Cuban-American demagogue Rubio announced his quote, or let's say in bold, the title was Economic Solutions for the 21st Century, where he says, too many of our leaders are stuck in the 20th century. And I think it'll be extremely spooky to find out what he exactly means by yesterday is gone and we're not going back. And I say let's hope we never have to find that out. So in terms of this flanking operation I was talking about earlier for Jeb, the Cuban-American Rubio will corral Latino voters and other conservatives before dropping out of the race and endorsing Jeb. Because remember that there was a common saying, Jeb and Rubio were so close that there was a common saying that Jeb was the general and Marco Rubio was the smartest lieutenant. So this is a very close relationship. So don't ever think that this isn't a flanking operation. We don't have time to go into Hillary. We'd be here for the entire show, but let's jump over her. We know who she is. My entire lifetime spent subjected to that woman. And let's skip over to something interesting, which is her left-wing woman, Elizabeth Warren. The two of them have been fawning over each other on the campaign trail lately. And we all know that Wall Street warmonger Hillary needs left populist cover. So this week, Elizabeth Warren comes out for the financial transaction tax, but offers no specifics. She's not saying it's even the 0.1% that Van Hollen and Pelosi are supporting. She's not saying it's the 1% we're supporting. She's just coming out with these giant talking points like, I'm for a financial transaction tax. I'm for raising the minimum wage. There's no specifics that I can find anywhere, but I think she's covering this talking points to pull in more and more numbers. So what this amounts to is, could Miss Prim, which is what we call Elizabeth Warren, could Miss Prim just be left cover for Clinton 2016? We've discussed how the Republicans have already fielded these stalking horse candidates, right? Like the guys before. The Democrats are going to do the same. Just this week, Warren came out, like I was saying, in favor of all these reforms, including the financial transaction tax. And so she's covering the board of all these talking points. And this is so Hillary can fall back on all those talking points. Clinton sought the advice of Warren several times in the year before announcing her candidacy, but now they're just buddy-buddy. Now they're together every day. And Warren has encouraged Americans to, quote, this week, give Hillary a chance. Therefore, we can assume, and Warren said she's categorically, she is not running. So she is there to support Hillary. So therefore, we can assume Warren could be a candidate that runs to cover Hillary's left flank and counters Clinton's years of profiteering through her political connections and donations from Wall Street. Warren is seldom, obviously, a profile in courage. Warren supports the paltry provisions of the Dodd-Frank regulation bill. I did nothing to prohibit the speculative practices that led to the 2008 crisis. Warren is a poor example of a progressive candidate. I mean, for instance, right now, at this moment, by even just mentioning the financial transaction tax now, she's behind Van Hollen and Pelosi. So she's behind some pretty mainstream Democrats who have already have a bill on the floor for the tax. So Warren is like a poor example. And she's going to be used, but she's got a lot of demagoguery, right? So she's going to be used to and fool the downtrodden American people. We'll be back next with Michael Chiotinas, our correspondent from Athens.
So we decided to upgrade the look of our home.
You know, improve the curb appeal.
We decided to add the look of stone to the exterior.
We really like the stacked stone look.
Yeah, but when I checked into the price, it was ridiculous. No way could we afford it.
Then a friend told me about Genstone. Genstone.
Genstone comes in lightweight panels made of polyurethane. They've actually engineered the hassle out of installation. No mortar, no mesh. It was easy. Even I could do it.
We just screwed the panels to the wall and it looks like stone. I mean, it really looks like stone.
Yeah, from the box to the wall in minutes.
We love the look of our home now.
And Genstone is durable, comes with a 25-year warranty, and offers additional R-value for insulation.
If you want the look of stone at a price you can afford, call Genstone
at 855-955-STONE.
Trust me, you'll save money.
And you'll love the look.
855-955-STONE. That's 855-955-7866.
Stress, like many conditions in a fast-paced society, is at epidemic proportions, and one of the most effective ways to support your body during periods of excessive stress is by replacing the nutrients expended during that time. De-stress contains large amounts of B-complex vitamins, in addition to vitamin C, magnesium, and valerian root extract. For more information on this and other great products, contact Lady Talk Live at 855-333-5239. Majestic Earth's Beyond Tangy Tangerine contains no artificial sweeteners or preservatives and is glycemic friendly. This easy dissolving powder contains plant-derived minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and 115 fruits and vegetables. I can't think of anything better for you. For more information on this and other great products, contact Lady Talk Live at 855-333-5239. That's 855-333-LADY.
If the IRS has garnished your paycheck or seized money from your bank account, you need to get professional tax help now. Fast action is required to put a halt to these aggressive IRS collection tactics. You can count on the knowledgeable team of tax professionals at Wall & Associates. With over 30 years of experience, Wall & Associates has settled the tax problems of thousands of taxpayers for a small fraction of what they owed. For a free face-to-face consultation, call 1-800-425-4610 to put a wall between you and the IRS. 1-800-425-4610 or look for us on the web at wallandassociates.net. We solve tax problems. If you hire Wall & Associates today, you'll never have to talk to the IRS again. To stop the levies and seizures today, take action now. Call Wall & Associates at 1-800-425-4610. Wall & Associates. 1-800-425-4610. Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
Hi, John Hubner from Midas Resources. Are you tired of watching your hard-earned assets dwindle away? As government spending is out of hand and the Federal Reserve is creating in excess of $20 billion a week, are you tired of stockbrokers gambling away your hard-earned money? Is this market a setup for a crash greater than 1987? Too many of today's policies resemble those that led to the collapse of 1929. This is John Hubner, and that was me in 2007. And we all know what happened when the subprime credit bubble burst. By March 2009, the dollar lost 50% of its value. The entire U.S. banking system was on the verge of collapsing. Like all financial problems of the past, is history about to repeat itself? Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129, before it's too late to protect yourself. Will the oncoming catastrophe take all private IRAs, 401ks with it? There is a way to protect your hard-earned assets. Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129.
Great minds think alike. The network for the independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network. GC.
I'm honored to be co-hosting the middle of the show with a friend of the Tax Wall Street Party and our correspondent in Athens, Greece. This is the unbeatable Michael Chiotinas. Chiotinas has accurately called all of the main turning points in the struggle of the Greek government against the European Central Bank and the European Commission. His analysis has been correct and second to none for years now. Last week, Chiotinas covered Alexis Tsipras' trip to Moscow to meet Putin. Today we want to do something special. Today we decided that we want to arm you with the arsenal of arguments for your discussions on the situation with Greece. We thought that we would remind everybody of the basics and what's going on in Europe and why Greece is in the position it's in today. So, hello, Michael.
Hello, Daniela.
Hi. I'm going to start out with the first question. I think let's just jump in. Michael, how did the euro currency come to be? And we're going to go all the way back to the euro forming. So how did the euro currency come to be, and why is there a question now on whether it's going to break apart?
Well, let's take this from the beginning. Each European country had its own national currency up until 2002. In 2002, some of them joined what came to be called the Eurozone. They came under the umbrella of a common currency, in other words. Mm-hmm. The central bank issuing this currency is the European Central Bank, or the ECB, as you sometimes hear it, which is exactly like the Federal Reserve. It is private and, most importantly, independent of democratic institutions. Actually, its board of directors is made up of people from each individual country's central bank.
Okay, so they created an economic union as we understand it. We have this with the 7 Federal Reserve governors and the 12 regional Federal Reserve banks located in cities in different states. The New York Federal Reserve is obviously considered the most important because it's in the city with the strongest economy. So is this the same?
Yes. Now the problem is that when you bring together economies with such differences in competitiveness, in other words, the ability to produce cheaply, be it because of the level of technology, the level of wages, etc. You're going to have imbalances. Now, you will have lots of money coming in to, say, Germany, because, for example, they build the best mechanical equipment. And how can Greek industry compete with German industry given their level of technology? Mm-hmm. The only way for a weaker economy to deal with this used to be to devalue their currency. That was usually used to fix the imbalance, because when you devalue, the domestic product can compete with the important one.
So can't they just increase German wages?
That's exactly what Germany did not do for the last decade or so. Say you want to have a monetary union. Anyway, okay, bring together these economies. Take the first step towards a federation, if you like. Well, then you need to have it crystal clear in your mind that every economy has its own place in the division of labor, the international division of labor or the European division of labor. What the European elites are failing to see is that you can't force 19 different national economies to become a copy of each other. And Germany being the most competitive, force 18 countries to be like Germany, you know?
Yeah, I want to explain this so Americans can understand, because I like to draw these parallels. I think the best way for Americans to think of European countries, I always say, are like states. Like, for example, California exports more produce than it imports, while Ohio has a steel industry, for example. Now, I have never thought, and I don't think any other Americans think of one state against another, having one state having trade deficits or trade surpluses. Obviously, this is mainly based on where the natural resources are and what the climate supports, meaning does that climate support that industry? But why do Europeans think of it this way, as separate?
That's actually a great question. That, I think, is because for Americans, this is self-evident. You have states in the U.S. that always had trade surpluses and always will have trade surpluses. And then you've got other states always having trade deficits. What's different in America are two things. Number one, the federal government helps to even out these imbalances by giving incentives for industry to go and build factories at deficit areas, for example, like forcing defense contractors to build here or there. And number two, the United States tolerates state bankruptcies without this insane threat of an eviction from the dollar zone.
That's really funny and really clear. We would never evict somebody in a different state from the dollar.
You never had a governor or a state with a strong economy. Governors with a strong economy saying that another state must change its policy or be expelled from the dollar. That would be unthinkable for Americans. So what you need is something like that. You need to have a plan on how capital flows coming into Germany in the form of industry profits, because other countries are buying their product, return to the surrounding weaker countries in the form of investment.
Okay, so while we in America have different states with competing and complementary economies that are then balanced by the federal government, the Euro scheme never had that in its planning.
No, it didn't. What they actually did was leave this to the banks. Just leave it to the banks. And we all know what a mess the banks can bring once you give them the power to plan the economy. Once the profits came into Germany, they filled the German banks with deposits. Okay, money that these banks then had to somehow put to use somewhere. And of course, banks have no idea what productive investment is, because, they're short-sighted by nature, by being banks.
Right. So, we know in America, too, what happens when the national economic planning is left to the bankers. I mean, that's been the history of our struggle here. So they give the funds to wealthy investors or stock jobbers, hedge fund, derivative sellers. So the European banking system did something similar, and then they obviously made a mess of it.
predictably so. What they found was they could get great returns for this money if they lent it to the weaker states. And so these bubbles were formed. The banking bubble in Ireland is an example. The housing price bubble in Spain, and the public debt in Greece. All of them examples of bubbles formed by money that had nowhere else to go.
Okay. So what are the trouble spots in Europe? Meaning, where do people want to see their money invested? Like here in the United States, it's obvious to us that we have terrible public transportation and we need urgent investment in crumbling infrastructure, and we have a lot of people out of work, et cetera. It goes on. We know what we need. How could Europe put people back to work? What investment do the European people want to see? What's the landscape over there?
Good question. I think that we need to think of Europe as a single economy, like America, and increase its competitiveness vis-a-vis the rest of the world. And, of course, not by cutting wages, rather by reviving the internal market. In other words, make Europeans able to buy European goods independent of what country they're in, what state. So that's number one. And number two is, for example, thinking of Greece as a hub. Ports, shipyards, and then fast rail. And then build modern networks of fast rail all over Europe to promote trade. Likewise, you can use every country's advantage for the good of all Europe as a whole.
Okay, Michael, we're going to a hard break. Let's continue this on the other side. You're listening to World Crisis Radio.
It's time to build your own emergency food stockpile with the industry leader, My Patriot Supply. Once you try them, you'll know why so many Americans like you have made them part of their emergency preparedness plan. Experience the My Patriot Supply difference today with this unbelievable offer. Right now, a 4-week food supply is only $99, and that includes free shipping. That's 50% off the online price. Call 800-274-3070 to claim yours. Limit 2 per caller while supplies last. This offer isn't available online, so you want to make sure and grab this opportunity to get prepared today. 800-274-3070 to get your 4-week food supply for the incredible price of only $99, and it'll be shipped to you completely free. Call 800-274-3070 right now. That's 800-274-3070 to claim yours while supplies last. Don't wait. Call today.
If the IRS has garnished your paycheck or seized money from your bank account, you need to get professional tax help now. Fast action is required to put a halt to these aggressive IRS collection tactics. You can count on the knowledgeable team of tax professionals at Wall & Associates. With over 30 years of experience, Wall & Associates has settled the tax problems of thousands of taxpayers for a small fraction of what they owed. For a free face-to-face consultation, call 1-800-425-4610 to put a wall between you and the IRS. 1-800-425-4610 or look for us on the web at wallandassociates.net. We solve tax problems. If you hire Wall & Associates today, you'll never have to talk to the IRS again. To stop the levies and seizures today, take action now. Call Wall & Associates at 1-800-425-4610. Wall & Associates. 1-800-425-4610. Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
So we decided to upgrade the look of our home.
Improve the curb appeal.
We decided to add the look of stone to the exterior.
We really like the stacked stone look.
Yeah, but when I checked into the price, it was ridiculous. No way could we afford it.
Then a friend told me about Genstone. Genstone.
Genstone comes in lightweight panels made of polyurethane. They've actually engineered the hassle out of installation. No mortar, no mesh. It was easy. Even I could do it.
We just screwed the panels to the wall, and it looks like stone. I mean, it really looks like stone.
Yeah, from the box to the wall in minutes.
We love the look of our home now.
And Gemstone is durable, comes with a 25-year warranty, and offers additional R-value for insulation.
If you want the look of stone at a price you can afford, call Gemstone.
At 855-955-STONE.
Trust me, you'll save money.
And you'll love the look.
855-955-STONE. That's 855-955-7866.
By now, you may have heard a bit about Bitcoins. But did you know Bitcoins are now over an $8.5 billion market? And did you know that over 65,000 businesses now accept Bitcoins? Listen, if you're already earning Bitcoins or trying to make money in the Bitcoin market, you've got to know bidbit.co. Why? Because bidbit.co is where you can easily receive Bitcoins by selling and auctioning off your own personal items or promote business products and services for Bitcoin. You heard right. Whether personal or business, you can now buy, sell, and auction your product and services quickly, easily, and securely for Bitcoin at bidbit.co, the first and only marketplace website to offer BidBit Escrow, a proprietary technology which gives buyers and sellers security and peace of mind because all transactions are protected. Start today. It's free to join, free to post, free to auction, and free to bid at bidbit.co. Buy, sell, bid, or auction everything Bitcoin. That's www.bidbit.co. bidbit.co.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GC.
Radio. Michael Chiotinas and Michael Chiotinas from Greece and I were just talking about banker tyranny, international banker tyranny. We're all subject to it. So what we need is to realize that we're all under banker tyranny.
Yes, we have been focusing on speculation rather than development. We in Europe and here in America.
Perfect. Michael, okay, so can you give us a view of how the euro came to be and how the bubbles grew to such an enormity that set the scene for the crisis? And what popped this bubble of runaway money from Germany? What happened there?
Well, that had to be the 2008 financial collapse. What else? I mean,
right.
The markets, quote unquote, or certain groups of individuals associated with the markets decided that if the governments were going to bail out every banker who rings the finance ministry's doorbell, well, eventually you're going to have a crisis of public debt. So who was the weakest link in that respect? Of course, it was Greece. Now, in 2010, a speculative attack on its bond market deprived Greece of the ability to finance its public debt. In other words, the interest it had to pay in order to borrow became too high, and it couldn't afford to issue new bonds to repay the ones that were due. So Greece lost the ability to roll over its debt. At the time, the bulk of this debt was held by European banks, mostly German and French banks. What was normal to happen at that point was a Greek default and an inevitable haircut, along with a big investment program for all the weaker European states. But that would mean losses for the banks. And more importantly, possibly send a message to other weak European countries that they could do the same, meaning even more losses for the banks, Yeah,
I understand. I mean, the banks were huge, and I mean, they could handle losing some money, but that wasn't the issue. The issue, I think, was the banks had to send a message to the other small countries like Italy, Ireland, Spain, Portugal. The message, you kowtow to our austerity demands, or we'll not only attack your currency and bonds or your bond ratings, but we'll force you out of the economic union. What would happen if there was a haircut? Like, what would have happened if there was a haircut on the debts at that time in 2010?
Done by who? The government, such as those we have today, with the banking interest in mind? the panic triggered would certainly lead to a new round of bailouts for these banks, which was at the point very, very difficult politically. Now, we all know how much recent governments in the Western world love to give free money to bankrupt banks. But a direct bailout was, I think, politically hard for any politician at that point.
So instead, the Greek government at the time decided to take the bailout money offered by the Troika without addressing the systemic root of the Greek depression, meaning they were afraid of making demands of their own that would start a panic and they wouldn't get their bailout?
The systemic root, that's right, which was European, not Greek, because if it was Greek, then why did Portugal and Ireland got bailed out? And why is Spain and Italy in trouble? The problem is obviously European. But instead of addressing it, as you said, what they did was create the whole rhetoric about the bankrupt, lazy Greeks who need to be thrown out of the Eurozone because they didn't comply with several rules of the monetary union. Rules impossible to comply with, and rules that the Germans and French were the first to have violated.
Right. Like, that was all just the most awful part. So you mean that they were saying Greece violated their made-up rules for fiscal responsibility? They stressed criteria for Greece, but is there any regulation on what types of loans can be made? Meaning, Greece has to comply with certain economic standards set by the union, but what I don't understand is, do the banks?
That's a good point. Well, good point. What we're talking about here is the Maastricht Treaty and what's called the Stability and Growth Pact, those sort of things. Well, the banks get to do whatever they want, as always. A banking union was never installed in the Eurozone so that you can deal with corrupt banks and bankrupt banks in a centralized manner. And as we already mentioned, there was, and still is, no investment policy. That's the important part. Now, what matters is that these criteria for the governments couldn't be met. They just couldn't. You can't force an economy to be what you want it to be. It has a dynamic of its own. And most importantly, the rules were written by people who thought that something like the 2008 financial crash was impossible. The models didn't predict a crash, so why prepare for it? They thought the bubbles would last forever, and they were lovely creations of the free market, increasing productivity in mysterious ways. Well, back to the point. Let me go back to the point. The main thing is to understand is that they coerced the Greek government to accept a huge loan from the European taxpayer in order to meet payments to the bondholders, effectively bailing out the banks and leaving the Greek taxpayer indebted to the European taxpayer, creating friction between them and leaving the European taxpayer having to take the hit of an inevitable haircut. Because, of course, Greece can't possibly ever pay back.
I mean, and how could it? Because the economy being in such bad shape because of austerity and deflationary policies. So austerity comes into play big time here. Can we go into that for a second?
Yes. What they also did was impose austerity, as you pointed out.
Right.
And policies that would destroy and have destroyed the Greek economy, making it even less able to pay, as you correctly pointed out.
So, okay. Let's give a quick recap. I would say at this time, so the German banks pushed their excess currencies onto the smallest countries in the European Union. And you correct me as I go along, because I'm going to try to recap. Then the 2007 economic depression hits, and the depression is exported onto the bond markets of these same small countries. When those countries can't pay or roll over their debts, the EU provides Greece with a loan to pay back the bankers, demanding that the government implement extreme austerity. The government puts the lives of people at risk so the banks don't take a loss. That's the priority. The banks don't take a loss. On top of all that, the rest of the European community then took the vile name-calling of you guys, the Greeks, and threats against the Greek people. They called the Greeks lazy and suggested they brought it on themselves. I was reading recently that Greece has the highest number of annual work hours of all employees in the EU. So calling the Greeks lazy is factually beyond incorrect. They said Greeks are poor and want something for nothing, but Greece is a developed country, and you guys had the highest standard of living with I was reading too, I wrote down this fact, a ranking of 29 worldwide in 2012. And so they're making all these slanders against Greece, which was part of the propaganda to blame it on you guys, and then they had the gall to talk about European solidarity. Like, well.
European solidarity, yes, it's Orwellian. This was never a bailout of Greece. It was once again a bank bailout. In fact, 96% of the money lent to Greece never even made it to Greece. It was immediately directed towards these big banks, bondholders.
Let's just put that in all caps so everybody remembers this. This was never a bailout of Greece. It was a bank bailout. And so you're saying 96% of the money never came back to Greece, never made it back to Greece.
Yes, it was just loans to pay back previous loans.
We were told in the news well, we're going to go to a break. I hear the music starting, and we'll continue with this on the other side. Thank you for being with us, Michael, and giving us this overview. You've been listening to World Crisis Radio. We'll be back in a minute. I'm hosting this week for Webster Tarpley, and I am so happy to find out that we got Reverend Pinkney to get through on the line. Reverend, I need you to tell us what happened on the 14th, because our entire audience is anxious to know the details of what happened, and also let us know, are you still in Coldwater? Did they send you back to Coldwater?
Yeah, I'm back in Coldwater as we speak, but Tuesday was a day of history-making. One of the things that happened, we went in there we requested a new trial because of that juror, and we basically had her up against the wall, and unfortunately, it looked like my attorney, he just didn't pull the trigger to go into details, because it was crucial that he ask certain questions and get certain answers, and he failed to do so, and it was rejected. And I kind of figured they was going to do that anyway, but what we did, we made a record of it for the appeal court more than anything else, and it really was a shamble. And anytime you're dealing with a criminal enterprise, that's what you get when you go down to when you go back to trial court, because the only time they're going to give you some kind of play when you go to the appeal court, and the appeal court makes them do it. And I think that we got a great chance and a great opportunity to do something. Also, they requested that I pay $1,700 to this sleazeball mayor, which really didn't make no sense at all.
That's just unbelievable. He's a public figure, and he's supposed to be subject to public protest.
Absolutely. But it's a sham. But we're counting now that we're just one or two steps away from getting the transcript and going straight into the appeal court, and that's where we need to be. But this is what I need people to start doing. We need to start spreading the word around about this criminal enterprise in Barron County, Michigan. They're operating like criminals. You got a judge with no integrity at all, Judge Sterling Chirac. You got the prosecutor, Michael Stepik, definitely don't have any scruples. And then you got the sheriff himself, Paul Bailey. And what they have done is almost ridiculous. But still, we have to make sure that we hold them accountable for their actions and their inaction of wrongdoing. Unless we're able to do that, we're doing nothing but spinning our wheels. So we're moving forward, and we're taking this thing to a whole different level. And we want to make sure. Go ahead.
You heard, Reverend, that the amount of protesters at the trial on the 14th was the largest yet, that you had over 200 people, so this is growing. Also, Jill Stein from the Green Party came out, so this is not getting smaller, it's getting much bigger.
Oh, absolutely. But Danielle, the key thing is that we must spread the word. We must let people know exactly what is going on and what's going on. It's not here. See, I'm here at Coldwater and Coldwater Penitentiary. And when you think about the penitentiary, you don't really realize that some people here in this penitentiary, they need to be at home with their families. They believe in locking them up and throwing away the key. Because the people on the outside think that they're such terrible people inside the prison system. I'm here, and they know I'm not a terrible guy. So we know that we need to let some of these folks that's in this prison out of this prison. And the way to do it, we have to let the people on the outside understand that this is a money-making project. That's what it is. It's a money-making project. Anytime that they send someone to prison nowadays, it's about the dollar sign. And it's like they told me, you don't need no evidence to send somebody to prison. We don't need no evidence to convict someone. And that's really what's going on. So it's crucial, Danielle. Even on Western Talking Show today, which is one of the biggest shows I know, and I'm just grateful that you're hosting for them. And I get a chance to talk about the foods here at Coldwater. The food is so terrible that they wouldn't even feed it to a dog. And it's just that bad. So
Reverend, are we allowed to mail you care boxes of food like Power Bars or not? Will they take that away?
No, but Dorothy will tell you how to get, if you want to send me something, Dorothy will tell you how to do it. Okay. But I want people out there also to remember this, which is crucial. It's crucial that people understand that the people here in this prison itself, they need our help. And we have to spread the word because it's time that they open the doors here and start letting some of these folks go home to their families. And
we're living under fascism.
Say that again?
We're living under fascism. They took our jobs, they destroyed our standard of living, and they shipped us all to prison. Mostly black.
It's here. It's here. It's right here. Matter of fact, I'm witnessing this right now. It's not about justice. It's not about anything like that. It's all about control and making sure that they send people. It's the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, you see. And it's crucial. Anytime that you have a country that won't feed, house, and clothe its people, it got to be overturned. So I'm excited, Danielle. I'm excited to be on this show telling people what's going on, and it's just tremendous. But remember this. We got to get enough money to pay for that transcript. So those of you out there, I want them to go to bhbanco.org. That's bhbanco.org. And whatever, I know people, you can't come into the hearings and stuff like that, but you can help in other ways. We need your support. We need you doing things. And we need everybody on guard doing what they need to do. Because there's so many, remember this, there's more of us than them. And we allow them to push us around like this. It's not fair. It's not fair. And pretty soon, everybody's going to be behind these barbed wire fences. So,
this is your life's work. This is our life's work. And more people, the only way more people are going to have to join. That's the way it's going to go. More people are going to join daily.
And you know one thing, Danielle, we got to educate the people. If we don't educate them, then they walk around in days because some people don't even believe that we can win this thing. But there's more of us than them. And once they understand that, we can win this war. Because, hey, this prison system is a perfect example. We got to start letting some of these folks go home. And as soon as we do that, as soon as people out there start standing up, we can do it. And we have to learn to work together. It doesn't make a difference whether you're black, white, Mexican, Puerto Rican, you're red, yellow. We can do it if we learn to work together.
And there's nothing more heartbreaking than to know there are people locked up for almost 50 years for nonviolent crimes and what's
absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes on and on and on for any reason. Like they told me, they say, well, we don't need evidence to see you to prison. We don't need it. What are we going to do with evidence? Those are the exact words. You know it. Because I've been saying this for the last year. They said these things. They said that we don't need evidence. What are we going to do with evidence? And the point is, people out there have to know this. There's nobody exempt from this. You see, people think, but it never happened to me. Well, who would believe that I would be in prison? Stuff like that. But I'm here, and we got to make the best of it.
Yeah, they don't need evidence when it applies to African Americans or poor white people, mostly African Americans. I mean, I don't do drugs, but if I was caught with drugs, I wouldn't go to jail. Whereas somebody my age who is African American would be put in jail for as long as the law would allow. It's just it's ridiculous.
You're right on point because you said the magic word, you know, and they target.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I only got 1 minute left. Daniela, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on your show. It's a privilege and an honor, and people all around the world will hear about this. And here's what I want to say. Don't forget about April 24th. We're having our boycott of all Whirlpool products. I want everybody to go to a store that sells Whirlpool products, and we're going to carry a sign. We got 22 states where people are going to be picking in, and also in some of the other countries around the world that we're going to send people that they're going to be able to do something. So we want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And listen, it's getting close to that time, but it's time for the transfer. Those of you who are out there who want to help, just go to bhbanco.org.
You've been listening to United Front Radio at ucy.tv. Have a blessed evening.